Good afternoon. We're here today working on what everybody wants to know about. Dining room sets, kitchen sets, chairs and tables. If you start following furniture artists, you'll find out this is one of the least favorite things for them to do, so it's hard to really find a lot of inspiration online. But I did. And if you've been following me at all, you know I'm on a purple jag right now with my aubergine, and so that's what we're going to do. I started with this maple set. You're only seeing one chair. It has 4 chairs and a round table that I'll show you later. But we started with this piece. We cleaned it. We gave it a scuff sand. Scuff sand basically means you're coming in with a piece of sandpaper and you're trying to sand off some of the factory finish, which is that varnish that's really shiny. You need to do that to give the paint something to grab onto, some teeth, as they like to call it, because otherwise the paint just slides around and it's never going to stick. And if it's going to do that, the other choice you have is you can come out with Slick Stick, which is a primer grabber. But it's thick and it's white, and I really didn't want to do that with the dark colors, so I decided to just go ahead and sand it down. Now, when you watch a lot of videos, they'll say, oh, scuff sand, and they show you about 3 seconds of a sand. This is really, and you can see I didn't take very much off. This was probably about 20 minutes worth of work, trying to just sand that shiny. So if you get a piece and you can see your reflection in it, you know you got to do something to it. So sanded, took a lot of the varnish off. Not perfect, but at least enough to get it to stick. So this is where we're starting. And today we will start with painting this, and you'll get to see some of this luscious purple. What we're going to end up with is over here, and it won't all be today, but I finished one chair so you could see what we did. We painted in purple, and I used my Moonshine Metallics, and I did 3 metallics because I really love the combo of the garnet, the amber, and of course the silver. So did some highlighting just to match the table, which you'll get to see in the big reveal later. But this is where we started. And maybe I'm having some vibes on Mardi Gras. I'm not quite sure with the purple and the fleur-de-lis and all the shiny, but that's where we're at. So I've got my great rollers, but they don't work so fabulous on carpeted surfaces and fabric surfaces. So anyway, that's where we're starting. It's right here. Okay, we're going to get started painting. This is the paint that is my current absolute favorite. It's aubergine. It's Dixie Belle. And aubergine is a fancy name for eggplant. So you think the outside of an eggplant. And this is the color. Yummy. Purple Passion. Just, I'm loving it. And really where I started with this is, everything's gray, white, and black, and I really wanted a color, but this is a very elegant color. It's not a cartoony color, so I really like it. Plastic bags to keep my brushes so I don't have to wash them 200 times a day. And my new favorite brush to do chairs. It's a zebra brush, and it's a small round. Maybe it's not a small, but it's a round brush. I think it's small round. And I just absolutely love it. It gets all these details, because there's nothing worse than painting rungs on a chair for being really tedious. So we're just going to get in and just start coating on paint. Look at how beautiful this is. When you get a keyhole like this, it's usually good to try and paint up, because if you paint down, you just slosh a lot of paint in the little groove, and then it just keeps bleeding down. So while you think you got your drips, when you get done, you come back 20 minutes later and you find it's dripped even more. So the idea is to remember to paint up when you get towards that keyhole, and also to clean it out. This just gets in all the crevices. I don't really have to work very hard. to get the paint where it needs to be. And it's got good coverage, but I am going to use at least 2 coats, maybe 2.5, as they say. But for sure I'm going to use 3 on the seat, because the seat's going to get a lot of wear and tear. And even if you top coat it, I still think that you need, what is that? Oh, dang. I don't know. I wasn't happy with 2 coats. Let's just put it that way. So you kind of plug in, pounce a little bit to get in those crevices. This has got a lot of nooks and crannies in it. These lines, which make it interesting because then you can do some embellishments, you know, like I did with the amber mousse. You know, you've got the ability to do that. And I'm starting on the frame and saving the seat for last, which to me, I don't know if that's the right way to do it, but it's the way I like to, because when you're painting on these rungs, you tend to keep nicking at the base. And if you've already painted the base in nice smooth strokes, it just kind of messes it up. So that is what I'm doing, is just getting paint down. Now the first coat's what they call an ugly coat, which means you're just really getting the paint on the surface. But you're not going to have total coverage. There's going to be some peekaboo through the wood, but you're getting a good start. And this is just wonderful. I mean, you're getting all the edges. You know, I don't really have to work, like I said, very hard to get in these crevices. I mean, look at, boom. I love this. Some of the other brushes, you've really got to go poke in to get your full coverage, standing on your head. Now on chairs, what I will do when I get this coat going, and I paint myself just as much as I paint my furniture, I'll finish it and then I'll turn it over and paint it from the bottom up, because when you've got rungs on here and you just got to see it from all angles, and seeing it from the bottom up is one of the angles you need to see to figure out where you missed. So that's what I'm doing. Okay, we're on coat number 2, and what I wanted to show you was a couple of different things. The reason why I turn the chairs over is look at what I've missed with coat number 1. That's first thing. The second thing is, when I first started painting, I got really anal about painting every surface. And then I kind of got to the point where I'm like, oh, I got most of the surfaces. But, you know, this bottom side, unless somebody's turning the chair upside down, it's really not a surface that is important to paint, in my opinion. If somebody's going to turn the chair upside down, they'll see it's a painted chair. I don't think that'll be any surprise. Plus, it gives you the history of the chair, of what it is, you know, and you can see, you know, the type of wood, which I think is important, because if you go around and paint this again or strip it or whatever, you know what you're dealing with. And since this whole painting idea is to update furniture, trends change, and, you know, if I get tired of the purple and whenever, I can go ahead and repaint this again. So got my water, second coat. You're going to want to use a little bit of water. With chalk paint, it's a very thick paint, and using water even on the first coat is good, but in this case, I wanted to get a good heavy coat on it, and using a little extra paint never hurts, because there's just, you know, not a lot of room between the raw wood and the paint. So I did that, but now I'm going back and spritzing a little bit of water, dunking my brush, and notice I'm just doing the tips, the very tips. It doesn't take much paint to be able to do the coverage that you need. And if you take it, I mean, look at how much that unloads. And if I had any more on there, I'd be slopping and dripping, and I do that enough. So, you know, you want to not do that if you don't have to. All right, this is a good example. I didn't really wait for the paint to completely dry, And the thing of it is when you're too anxious, water and wet paint will reactivate the layer below if you don't wait long enough. And then all you're doing is you're lifting the paint, which is a fancy way to say you're just pulling it back up again and mushing it around instead of painting on top. So that's something that you just have to be aware of and try not to do. Drying time, you know, if you do a coat of paint, it should be dry in 20 minutes. You know, with something as detailed as this, you can get to the, you know, end of the piece and then start back again, because this may look like a little piece, but there's a lot going on. And when you start having to paint round surfaces, it's really, you know, you're on your head, you're trying to go upside down to find where you're missing spots. So anyway, having said all of that, if you paint one coat and you're done for the day, that's not bad. You can come back the next day and know that your paint is really dry and it's not going to be lifting back off again. Chalk paint, like I said, unless you're in a really humid or strange area, you know, maybe in the middle of the summer when it's really humid, it should dry in about 20 minutes. Cold will affect it too, so you don't want to paint when it's too cold. So in the summer it's nice to paint outdoors, but you run into some issues with it either drying too fast or too slow. So painting inside is good. And these are no VOCs, and that's why I use chalk paint. So you can paint inside and it's pretty healthy. So catching all the little pieces on this round brush is just awesome, because I'm not really having to do a lot of craziness to get these surfaces covered. And the last thing I want to mention at the moment is when you're painting, especially funny surfaces, is you want to have a sense of your brush, of the tips of your brush hitting your piece. Because if you're pushing too hard, you know, it's going to go around and paint areas that maybe you didn't really want to paint, like when you're painting a corner of a surface. So start paying attention to how, you know, how hard the brush is hitting the surface, because there's going to be some times when you just want to do a little feathery stroke, and there's sometimes when you're really going to want to pounce the paint, you know, and get it into cracks and crevices and things like that. I have to come back and fix that later after it's dry. So just a couple things to keep in mind. Okay, I'm back. Now I've gotten my coats of my base coats on my piece, which is the aubergine, and I did 2.5 coats. I did the third coat on the seat, and before I do any fancy stuff on top of it, I want to go ahead and hit it with a coat of top coat. That will protect this so that if I make mistakes on top of it, I can just take that part off and I don't go all the way back down and take the purple off too. So what I'm using right now is a Dixie Belle's clear top coat in a satin. And they have 3 different finishes. There's a matte, I believe, a satin, and then a gloss. And what's real special is that you'll see my top fell inside of this, but it's a milky white, but it goes on like that and then it dries completely clear, and that's what we want. We just want a clear coat on top of it. And you can do it with a brush, you can do it with a sponge, you can do it with all different kinds of things, but I kind of like this blue sponge applicator, and I use this a lot for my gator hide, which is really tricky. You see how milky this is? So I'm pouring it out. I've got these little styrofoam plates. They're just little, I don't know, 4-inch plates or whatever. They're perfect because it fits the sides of the sponge. And so you dip it and then you wipe it off, hopefully evenly, and then you start gliding it on. And in the case of a long, smooth surface, or any kind of a smooth surface, you're going to want to do even strokes on it. When you're doing rungs and things like that, it's not quite so bad about being perfect, but on these surfaces, especially when you get a satin or a gloss finish, is you want to kind of do it straight. And because you got rungs you got to go around, it's a little crazy. But that's why I kind of like using this, because this gets around the rungs real easily. And just like your paint, you don't want to overwork it or you start pulling it off, but you do want to spread it out so it is even. So I'm going in and spreading it out. You can do a couple of different ways, but your final stroke should be the way that you want to go, like normally with the grain of the wood. And this wood is going back to front. And I'm living life dangerously, because whenever I hold a plate in one hand and the applicator in the other hand, I'm tipping the plate and it goes down on my drop cloth. So I'm trying to be real good about that. So just long, smooth strokes. Get it on. You see it's white, but it's already, you can already see it starting to dry clear. And the nice thing about seeing it go on white is you can kind of pick up where it's pooling or dripping. And that's going to happen around rungs, the base of rungs, things like that. And one good thing you can do, set that puppy down, is take any kind of a little artist brush and you just wipe it up. And then you don't have a pooling, because later on it's just going to dry lumpy, and that's what you don't want to do. So I'm going to keep doing this, hitting all my surfaces to protect them, and then I'll be back. All right, I'm down on the floor. We're going to get doing some details. I taped off the legs here. I don't normally do a lot of taping, but I want a clean line to paint these little feet to match the table that we've done. And so I taped them off just mostly because I just want to get a clean line down at the bottom here. So I'm going to start, which I've already been working on, is my gemstone mousses. This is the garnet, if you can read it, because I've already spilled it 3 times. So this thing is a mess. But I love it, and you do have to shake and stir these, but I've been using them all afternoon. They're yummy. They're mousses. So they're very thick. And because I have a tendency to spill, I am working out of the cap. And you'll find out that it doesn't take very much to do this. So I think I'm going to start with the legs here and show you what I'm doing down here. Just real easy. I'm just going to paint feet. Like little caps, like little metal caps, because these are highly pigmented and very metallic. They're so shiny. I just love them. So it just doesn't take very much. They spread around a lot, and you really want to keep a thin coat on it, because they do take quite some time to dry if you don't. These are not drying in 20 minutes. Although I'm going to show you another technique that I use with the diamond, or the silver one. All right, I gotta put the glasses on. See what I'm doing. Pardon my big head. This is the fun of painting in the round. And especially with little artist brushes. These artist brushes, you can pick them up at, Hobby Lobby, the dollar store, Michael's, wherever. And they usually come in packs. I like these that have a little bit of an angle to them. I don't know if you can see that, but they come in different sizes, and the angle is good. You'll see when I get up here to create a straight line when I'm not taping and I need it to look perfect, or my version of perfect, which is never perfect. All right, and the key is you want to try and do this without tipping the furniture over, because I don't want to stand on my head to do this, but I want to get all the way around so I can do the reveal with the tape, and you can see the effect that you can get very easily. It's like a stripe. I mean, it's the same technique that you use for striping. Although you don't have to do as much burnishing and stuff because I'm not really trying to get too fancy. I'm just doing one color. Sure I am. I'm doing one color upside down. All right. Okay. So there is 1 foot. And you want to take the tape off quickly. I taped this off camera because this leg is not even, so it's a little more tricky than I imagined. And ta-da! You have a nice clean edge there, and it's so shiny. At least I think it's a clean edge. And I'm going to do that on all 4 legs, and that'll match my table. So that's one of the embellishments I'm going to do. And the other one with the garnet is to go all the way around the base because I've got a band of garnet on the tabletop. So this will match it. And this is just one of those things that you just get in here and do as clean and straight of a line as you can. And if you goof up, I'll show you a real quick fix, which is why you have your handy Mr. Bottle. Or your Mr. Bottle handy, let's put it that way. Bottom edge is real easy. The top edge, so you just wet down and make sure you hold the bottle the right way so you don't spray yourself in the face. Not that I've ever done that before. And you just come in and just run a clean line. But make sure you find a clean spot on your rag because otherwise you will leave metallic paint somewhere else that you didn't plan on doing it. So that's just a cheater way to do a line. So we're going to go all the way around like we did here. And do a band that way. Now the thing that I really love to do, let me come around here and show you, because this is like finger painting. So this is the gemstone mousse, which is diamond, which is their silver. And again, very highly pigmented. You know, it's like it should have a warning label on it. Be careful, this is really bright. But it's fabulous. And what I like to do is just paint a little bit of a line. I might not be as thin-handed on this. And I'm going to outline these rings. Do a quick cut on that. All right, so I painted a thin line around it. And then, because I like to finger paint, is that I'm going to just run my finger all the way around here. You have control with your fingers better than even a brush. And this gives it kind of a hammered metal look to it. I don't know. I just really like it. You may not like it, but I do like it. And it softens the edges and it gives you kind of a clean line all the way around. So I'm going to do that on all of these. Well, now I'm getting really messy. So I'll have to do some fixes in there. But in general, this is pretty easy. And I'm not doing this on camera. It is a fun, easy, cool way to get a perfect line. And then when you go on camera and you just spaz out with your paintbrush, and you just get all the way around, and that is just such a pretty look. At least I think so. So we're just gonna keep doing, and it doesn't take much. I mean, I won't even make a dent in this lid, and I'll get through all of these little rings. around. And it's not an exact science. It's just, you get in, you put some paint down, enough to get your finger going around, and you pop it around, and you've got a silver band. You can do this. I think the diamond works the best with this. I think that when you do it with the garnet or the amber, it's a little muddy. I haven't tried doing it with the gold yet, but all of these mousses have different metallic properties. So now I know how the Tin Man feels. So this is really cool. And they're all water-based, so you're not going to hurt yourself. This will just wash right off. Back on the floor, and for the final, well, not the final step, but the next step, we're going to go ahead and do a stencil. I love the fleur-de-lis pattern, and I was really bad and didn't clean it off after the last chair, but I will definitely do that when I'm done here. So I'm not using the whole thing, I'm just using a portion of it. So I'm going to go ahead and line it up, tape off so I can figure out where I lined it up on the last one, and make sure I'm straight because I'm upside down. And I wanted to show it to you this way because it's easier to work when you're close to a flat surface on stencils. That looks pretty good. All right. Okay. And we're using, surprise, gemstone mousse. I'm using my amber and my garnet together. And I've got little sponge applicators, which is the way you want to put mousse on, stencils on. If you put too much paint, it'll seep underneath and it'll get all yucky looking. So if you want, which is a technical term, so if you want crisp lines, you put very little on, and the mousses are thicker, so it's easier to only get a little bit, and it's not so liquidy, so it doesn't move around. Waxes are probably an even safer try, but I haven't done that yet. So I like the mousses and stencils. I think it's a good combo. So what I'm going to do is start, and what you want to do is pounce, but you want to make sure you're pouncing only where you want the color to go. So it's a little bit tricky here because I just want these little red dots to be garnet in the middle, and I don't want the rest of the pattern to be garnet. And I'm going for a more faded look on the stencil, considering everything else is pretty blingy and pretty much in your face. I'm trying to just give the color and a little bit of interest to the back of the chairs, because the seats are getting all the attention here, and I feel like to connect the back of the chair. So I'm holding the stencil down, pouncing, and I think I got those done. All right, now cover your paints. I've learned the hard way, when they're upside down and open, it's not good. All right, so now I'm going to go with the amber, because we have no amber on here. And really, I was thinking about doing amber on those lower, but I didn't. Maybe the next chair we'll try it, see how it looks. So I'm going to use the larger one because we've got a little more ground to cover. And this is probably even too much. You just need a little bit. And I'm going to start in the middle and really get that bling, 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 bling. But you're going to be surprised how faded it looks. At least if it turns out the way the last chart turned out too. So you're pretty much just going to pounce, pounce, pounce. This is so exciting. Just get it all on your stencil. And to reload just a little bit more. And you just want to make sure you got kind of a consistent Although I've seen some really pretty stencils where they don't get consistent. They kind of go in and out, fade. But I think if you see up close on this that we're going for full coverage. Oops, that was a little too full. We're going to offload it over here when we got more room to spread it out. And come back and fix that in just a sec. And I'm holding, I take down the stencil, but you know, they still move. Now Dixie Belle's got a new line of silk screen stencils, and they've got glue on, well, not glue, but adhesive on the back. So they stick, and you get really crisp lines from those because there's no way to get paint underneath them. So I kind of think those are cool, but I haven't tried them yet. Still just new out. And as much as I want to buy one of everything or 12 of everything, I had to pick my battles on what products I wanted to try. So this is my Old Faithful stencil that is stenciled all over the place with these fleur-de-lis. All right, bear with me, we're almost done. These in the middle are a little problematic because they're just a loose piece. They're not really connected to much, so I really want to hold them down so I don't get anything underneath them. And better to get it on my fingers than to get it on the wrong spot on the chair, because I can wash my fingers pretty quickly. This stuff comes off so easily. A little soapy soap and water, and 2 seconds and you're clean. These little sponge brushes are awesome. They're so cheap. You can buy them at any of the hobby stores. You know, like you get 12 of them for 50 cents or whatever. So you can just use them, toss them. Sometimes I'll wash them and save them, but not too often. All right, and voila, there you go. So I suppose it would be good to put this straight up so you can see it right side up. Ta-da! That looks so cool. Okay, so here's the finished product. Table and chairs. Feeling a little Mardi Gras right now, just a couple weeks in the future. So now relax. Think about the next project.